Hey, it's Jay. I want to talk about The Music Man, because sometimes you're thinking about the same song for weeks on end, and unfortunately this time that song is the Shapoopy. So I figured if I make a video about it, I'll stop thinking about it, as has happened for all my other videos. So I watched 3 adaptations of The Music Man because I'm on a weird adaptation kick. The problem with that is that every version of The Music Man is the same. For some reason, whenever anyone does The Music Man, they literally just do The Music Man. It has all the same songs, the same cues, the same plot beats, even the same jokes.
Professor, you're a pretty bright young fella.
But you made a couple mistakes, though.
Oh? The mayor owns that billiard parlor.
And that new pool table. Oh,
What was my second mistake? That Janita?
she's the mayor's oldest girl.
So the only constructive criticism I could give about each adaptation would basically be comparing how well each actor acted, and considering one of the adaptations was just the first high school production I found online, I would basically be making fun of children, and I don't want to do that. So this one is kind of just about The Music Man. Strap in. We're going to be talking about a lot of casual sexual harassment. It's not going to be great. The 3 versions of The Music Man I watched were the 1962 version starring Robert Preston and Shirley Jones, the 2003 TV movie version starring Matthew Broderick and Kristen Chenoweth, and the 2019 Parker and Craig High School version starring some children. I'm not going to be talking extensively about the children. They all did a great job, that's all you need to know. The 1962 adaptation is the best way to see this pretty definitively. It's a fairly competent studio film, and the cast was pretty spot on. Robert Preston is the only Harold Hill I've seen that works. It's a tough role, it is hard to do. Buddy Hackett as Marcellus had a lot of character, and Shirley Jones as Marion is charming even in librarian mode. The Buffalo Bills really bring the heat. These are clearly 4 guys who only pretend to hate each other. They have so much fun doing their thing. All the extras are having a good time. It's a charismatic movie. The 2003 TV movie is fine. It's got some good choreography. It just flags a little because Matthew Broderick seems to be a possessed puppet in this film. He just moves weird. The vibes are very bad. I don't know why anyone trusts him. The other actors did great though. Victor Garber and Molly Shannon shine as the mayor and mayor's wife, and it's got Kristen Chenoweth as Marion, where she does that thing she does.
But I never heard it said.
You could watch it, it would probably be a fun time. The Parker and Craig production was very impressive. These kids did alright. The fancy electric backdrop adds a lot, beautiful touch, keeps the stage uncluttered, especially as the big numbers can feel a little intimidating. There are so many people on stage all the time. Explains why many of the other high school productions I glanced at had a lot of adults in the cast. This was a dual high school production, so it's all students for this one, and it gives the right energy. If you're going to watch a high school production of The Music Man for some reason, try this one. I'll be using footage from each while I talk, but mostly the first 2 because, you know, they have professional actors, not teenagers. Much easier to watch, less creepy. The Music Man is a musical written by Meredith Willson, his first and only well-remembered musical. It revolves around the con man Harold Hill, who arrives at the small Iowa town to run a boys' band's con, intending to sell the people instruments and uniforms, then skipping town when it is time to actually lead the band. It's got a lot of catchy songs, although the second half kinda drags. Despite the difficulty of the songs and the people necessary to stage it, it's a popular choice for high school and small town productions, usually for its bombast and old-timey vibes. I would know, I was in a production of Music Man some time ago. I played one of the school board members. I was the high tenor. I did so many extracurriculars, you guys. Don't know how I had the energy. It is 1912, and we are in Iowa, and it sucks here. Full of provincial, stubborn nobodies who all think they are hot shit. A bunch of traveling salesmen are bitching about how hard it is out there when some guy starts complaining about this con artist who sells the town a bunch of expensive instruments and uniforms for a boys band and then bounces. Professor Harold Hill, who is not a professor, nor is his name Harold.
Gregory!
Harold is on the train and takes their bitching about him as a challenge, and offloads at River City to try his scam against these Iowans. There he runs into his old pal Marcellus, who has settled down in this nowhere burg and gone straight, and Harold begins to run his scam, getting people all worked up about a pool table coming to town, which eventually lead their children being hooligans and louts. Here we meet the music teacher, Marion Peru, a woman in her 20s who was ostracized by her community for her intelligence. She's on her grind set as the town librarian who teaches piano at night, and she wants nothing to do with strange men who approach her on the street. Her mom then starts a fight about how she can't stay single forever for some reason. The Perus seem to be doing okay, they don't need money, and she clearly doesn't want to, so leave her alone. But it is unfortunately 1912, and we get a bunch of boring songs about love and finding a right person. It happens a lot, and while I'm glad she gets a lot of screen time, I wish it wasn't for the most boring parts of the movie. Anyway, this burg is full of hicks who suck, and Harold interrupts just a real miserable pageant to let everyone know he's going to need like $20 for this boys band he's starting. Sounds on the up and up. Let's all get pulled in by this shady man who never seems to have his credentials on hand and keeps changing the topic to how you should give him some money. A lot of people are skeptical, really. The mayor, his wife, the school board, Marion, but most of them are extremely gullible idiots. And Marion falls in love with him because he manages to cheer up her little brother, so she decides not to rat on him even after he sexually harasses her at work. So he weasels around for a while and actually gets a fair amount of orders, and the excitement about the band starts to infect the town. The school board's now a wandering barbershop quartet, the mayor's wife is doing some performative modern dance and reading Balzac, something she was quite against before. The troublemaker Tommy Gillis is now Harold's assistant and dating the mayor's daughter. People are downright cheery. The instruments arrive a couple of weeks in, and now the band can start practicing while we wait for them uniforms. Harold Hill is really bad at this and instructs the kids to use the think method of learning, which is just humming this tune to themselves day and night. But the town is all in on Harold Hill at this point, only the mayor even mildly hostile to him, so they see nothing wrong about this. Because they're a bunch of stubborn provincial pricks who are easily manipulated by con men. But enough about the state of Iowa. Iowa, I don't want to be mean, but come the fuck on already. This representation of you should not still be accurate. So Marion keeps mulling over her feelings for Harold Hill when the uniforms are coming in tonight and Harold is going to need to either bounce or materialize a band really quick. The boys have done no actual practicing. He has been having these children humming to themselves for weeks. Real gullible people. Marion is considering telling Harold how she feels, but she's scared when an anvil salesman asks for direction to the mayor's house. He's still pissed off about a conversation he had a month ago, and he's here to blow up Harold Hill's spot while he's in town. Marion finds herself compelled to stop him, even using sex appeal to distract him because of course he casually sexually harasses her too. So this is a horrific and terrifying encounter, and luckily our anvil salesman cares about his job and runs to catch the train. The one thing she finds to obsess over about the encounter is an offhand remark about how Harold Hill probably has a floozy in every town, because love makes you stupid, I guess. She confronts these feelings when Harold comes to call and asks if she wants to go necking at the gazebo, and she says yes. While there, she reveals she knew he was a con man the whole time, but it doesn't matter because she understands love now, and it means helping the guy you love flee town before he gets tarred and feathered, a very real risk. Because the anvil salesman missed his fucking train, and he might as well make Harold get his, and also he gets to have one of the best lines in the play.
Why, you bone-headed, square-toed, tank-town boobs!
So the town is ready to mob, and it is time to go. Both Marcellus and Marion know he is in trouble and warn him to get going, but he's had a change of heart. Someone actually liked him for him once, even though he's a terrible person, and he doesn't want to lose that, so he's going to have to come clean. He tells little Winthrop that he thinks he's a swell kid and he was a big liar this whole time, but he's not going to run. He's going to lead that boys band like he always wanted to, and maybe it will just work out. And it does, because God forbid there's consequences for his actions. He's the protagonist of a musical written in the 50s. He surrenders to the mob, and after a speech with Marion, they realize that maybe it's okay they got conned, because now the town doesn't suck as much. And it turns out these kids figured out how all their instruments worked, because they're actually not half bad. Not good, God no, but enough to fill their parents with pride. And everything is good now, somehow. The play is over. Don't think about it anymore. Harold Hill should be in jail, but I guess that's not happening. So there's a lot of uncomfortable stuff in this, most of it unintentional. This was written in the 50s, back when people liked to pretend entire classes of people didn't exist. A time when things were bad, actually. So I'm going to be real woke about this and break down all the messed up things I noticed about The Music Man. This is mostly jokes. I'm not trying to cancel The Music Man. Try to view things critically. It makes things a lot more interesting. From least to most offensive, the messed up things in The Music Man. While I was watching the high school production, I know the problem that frequently comes up with high school musical productions, and that is the level of enthusiasm from the respective sexes. The Harold Hill they cast had a weak voice, low charisma, and couldn't really dance, and that's fine. We aren't expecting perfection. Meanwhile, the Marion knocked it out of the goddamn park.
And I would like him to be more interested in me.
And she absolutely had to, because the musical gives her 4 high-energy ballads, while Harold has 2 patter song and a bluesy number he can stumble through. This weird mix of songs actually makes it the perfect choice for high schools, because there is going to be at least 3 divas gunning for that role, while you can probably get a basketball player to smarm around stage if need be. The hardest casting will probably be the school board, but push comes to shove, you could just get some teachers for that if you needed. Which is why I irk a little at the musical being so focused, at least narratively, on our Music Man. This guy is the lead of the thing, it's named after him, and he doesn't do anything but lie. He gets no character development, no backstory, and doesn't change his tune until the last minute, suddenly, when he decides that maybe he's in love with this woman, but mainly only because he discovered she knew he was a scam artist and defended him anyway. So he should probably face the music on her behalf and not leave her in the lurch? Meanwhile, Marion has an entire arc from being a stubborn know-it-all who eventually opens her heart to the community and begins to understand what womanly love is supposed to look like. I don't like it, but it is an arc. So why isn't she the star? Why isn't the name of the play not Marion the Librarian? Why does Kristen Goddard Chenoweth have to get second billing behind Ferris Bueller? It's probably sexism is all I'm saying. This is a very heterosexual musical. The number of songs that are about the sexual politics between men and women is frankly astonishing. Every song the Barbershop Cadet sings is a love song, every song that Marion sings is about how she doesn't have no man, and the point-counterpoint of Harold singing about how he loves sluts, and then waylaying that into asking Marion why she doesn't want to fuck him is super duper gross. The entire town is obsessed with the fact that Marion Peru doesn't have a husband. It is the only thing her mother ever talks about with her. The play does not pass the Bechdel-Wallace test, obviously, but the play going out of its way to state that the reason no one in town respects Marion is because she is unmarried at the age of 25 is just awful. And it's not even feminist about it. It barely acknowledges that this is unfair, and the play ends with her in love with a man and now respected by the community because it turns out they really love fart jokes.
Chaucer!
Hey, isn't it weird that Marion is a full-grown adult with an education while her brother is at most 9 years old? When exactly did Mrs. Prue have her second darling child, and why was it so long after her firstborn? I am not the first to notice this particular detail, nor the first to notice this particular line setup.
Does Mama wish he'd never come to River City?
Well, you do, don't you?
A case can be made that Winthrop is actually Marion's child, and they did that thing that was done when a daughter had a child out of wedlock, where they pretend the mother is actually a sister. Do I think this is true? Probably not. The way she talks about old Mr. Madison doesn't imply anything untoward there at all, but it sure makes her sudden heel turn on Harold make more sense. A production that leaned into that would be pretty interesting. I do not think I'm off base by suggesting that this song that compares a bunch of middle-aged women gossiping the chickens is sexist. It is certainly not a flattering comparison. It is especially insulting when the hot goss they are dropping is that Marion Peru is a whore because she was respected by a family friend who went out of his way to ensure that she and her mother would not be destitute by willing her the entire contents of the River City Library, thus ensuring she would need to be hired as a librarian. And the dirty books are the most milquetoast satires ever, barely worth a mention in terms of actual, puerile content. Geoffrey Chaucer with his fart jokes, Francois Rabelais' Giants, which are at most gross, and the works of Honore de Balzac, who I'm sure is included in this song simply because his name sounds like a ball sack.
Balzac!
It's hilarious to hear a lady say ball sack. The song is fun to sing, but just kinda awful out of context. Every day I grow more and more frustrated with the shapoopy. It starts off really bad,
Now, woman, who kissed on the very first date is usually a hussy.
and it just keeps getting worse. The central premise of the song, that as long as you are persistent with a coy dame, you will eventually win her over, and she'll let you squeeze her whenever you like, is borderline insane. This is not good courting advice. This is barely acceptable social behavior, and the manic pace and choreography frequently drive me mad. Also, this bit, it's just ick. Ick! And of course that villain Peter Griffin had to reintroduce this ridiculous song back into the mainstream so it could be chuckled at by frat douchebags for another decade. I do not like this song. The 2003 rendition though, they managed to make it a little better. A little. Harold Hill is not a very sophisticated scammer, jumping right to scare tactics and hyperbole to get the town into a tizzy. He's able to frighten them so easily with things that do not seem all that bad, really, such as a man sitting directly on a horse, children adjusting their pants, and jokes from a magazine that doesn't even exist yet. These people are easily terrified, and also easily persuaded by arguments that I find lacking. His attempt to convince adults that their children will be great in his band involves some real spurious arguments about hand shape and biological imperative, about how young Winthrop would be a perfect flugelhornist because of his proud Irish heritage. It's giving you Genesis, bestie. I know he's bullshitting, but that the suckers in this town are quick to eat up his argument that their children are genetically predisposed to be musicians, so you should give Harold Hill $5 is absolutely yikes. Speaks to what other kinds of appeals they would be willing to go along with, you know? I don't like it. I once again invoke when and where this play is set to note that everyone involved is white as fuck. These people are so white that the mayor is extremely upset that his daughter has been secretly dating a Serbian. Not to mention people nearly fainting at the idea of jazz music.
And ragtime, shameless music that'll grab your son, your daughter, with the arms of a jungle animal instinct.
So of course there are no people of color in the 1962 film adaptation. But there are black people in the 2003 movie with lines, and the fact that they don't approach it with any real reckoning on what that does to the internal structure of the thing bothers me. All the named characters are still white, and if you were to woke cast this, while my initial instinct to make this interesting by casting a black man as Tommy, I think that causes more problems than it solves. No, if they had any courage at all, they would have made the mayor's family black. They should have cast Tim Meadows and Wanda Sykes. Would that have made it better? No, probably not. But it would have been more interesting. I understand that this musical is set in Middle America during the early 20th century, and it makes 100% sense to show that the idiots in this small town are not very culturally sensitive about this kind of thing. It's not supposed to be shown as a good thing. This is before the town got hip with the modern era and the ladies started doing weird modern dance about Grecian urns. You see, now that they are cultured and not doing this out-of-pocket Pocahontas nonsense. But its presence in the 2003 version with Molly Shannon feels like a huge stumble, and an especially big stumble when local high schools keep this part in when they're performing it nowadays. They don't have to do this, and a number of them don't. Seems like an easy thing to leave out, it doesn't move the story forward, all it does is make everyone watching internally cringe. So the only real antagonist in the play is the anvil salesman, with his knowledge of Harold Hill's deception and willingness to use his lunch break to tell someone about it. This guy's vibes, though, are extremely off. He will not stop talking about how attractive Marion is, and if he had some more time, he'd really like to take her behind the house and so forth. It's fucking gross, and it becomes measurably worse. And it becomes measurably worse when she starts pretending to be into his handsy advancements in a way that feels legitimately dangerous. You did not know this man, Marion. He has told you multiple times how he would love to have his way with you, and I'm not sure how receptive he would be to a no thanks. You see, when Harold Hill sexually harasses you, it's fun, and there's a song. When this guy does it, you remember he is carrying around a heavy object with him all the time. He's got to be pretty strong to lug an anvil around. Too strong. Anyway, I hate this creep, and I take back everything good I said about that line being my favorite. I guess my favorite line is now when the tiniest school board member suggests Harold Hill puts up a bond.
Make him put up a bond. What am I hearing?
You might think with how glib and mean I'm being to Professor Harold Hill that I'm not fond of this play. This is not true. I hold so many songs from this close to my heart. Rockport is a messy, messy song, but it's a real fun opening. Iowa is gleefully mean, and I like to add swears to the lyrics.
We can be cold as a wall in thermometer in December if you ask about our weather in July. And we're so
God damn!
stubborn we can stand touching noses.
Trouble is an excellent patter song, and by that point the whole thing has you overlooking a lot to see what else we're getting. Wells Fargo wagon kicks, the laundry list of boring ass things that got in the mail is great, and there's a lot of good barbershop in this. All the other stuff is perfectly fine to kinda goofy, to dull but impressive, to the dreadful shapoopy. The soundtrack is worth a listen if you haven't heard it dozens of times. And while most of that is nostalgia, of course that's what it is, I still know I love Music Man, in the same way that Marion loves Harold Hill. Everything about Harold Hill sucks. He's phony, he's conniving, he's annoying, you can't trust a word he says, and yet Marion still feels herself drawn to him. She still wants to talk to him and thinks about him all the time. And when she eventually comes to the realization that she is in love, it's because she realizes that she doesn't care. She still is quite fond of this guy. He makes her feel good. And Music Man does that for me. I don't want to watch it all the time, God no, but I'm quite fond of it. Mind, it's easier to be fond of a movie that can occasionally be uncomfortable, as opposed to a man who has conned your family out of at least $5, which is a lot of money in 1912. Sure, Winthrop loves his trumpet, but he didn't even bother to learn how to play the instruments so he could teach them a little. Surely it cannot be that hard. You have access to a place that sells musical instruments. They've got to sell a book or something. If you really want to lead a boys band, Harold, there are ways you could do that don't involve hoping the power of community and love will save you from a public lynching. Glad it worked out for you, but it really shouldn't have. You know, that technically wasn't about television at all. I keep drifting off topic. I can't help myself. I like talking about musicals. They always have some wildness in them. A lot of questions. Anyway, keep the spirit of Columbo in your hearts, dedicated to the truth and in holding rich assholes responsible. Ciao.